Hello, my Minecraft family. Today is not so much an episode as it is a how-to. So we are going to look at how to create a bee farm. Yes, that's right, a bee farm. And why do I want such a thing? Well, in 1.17, they made honeycombs pretty darn important. Because you need honeycomb now, one honeycomb to make one candle. And candles are so freaking cool, and I'm going to want to use them everywhere. So I'm going to need a lot of honeycomb. So I'm going to need a lot of bees, and I'm going to want this thing to be automated. So in this video, I'm going to try to show you how I'm going to go about doing this. So let's start with the mechanics of a simple collection system. So we are going to start with looking at what we're going to need just for one collection system, for one beehive. So you'll need at least an observer. You'll need a dispenser. You'll need some redstone dust, some bees, a bee nest or hive, some solid building blocks, and in this case I'm going to use some glass so we can see what's going on, dirt or grass block, and a flower of your choice. So with all that in hand, let's go ahead and try to set up what would be, I guess, a simple automatic bee pod, and then we can look at how we're going to collect that. So let's start off, and I'm going to build this a little higher than ground level. So we are looking at eventually, let's say we have a chest there, and then we're going to have a hopper there, and on top of that hopper we're going to have a hopper minecart, and then that's going to collect from the block above it, which is going to be where the bees are going to be. So this is really our building level. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these for now. So that's our building level. So now what we need to do is we need to get a hive, and let's see how we're going to do this. So we got to put down a temporary block. Doesn't matter which side we're on. Put down our hive. Now this is important. The front of the hive, or in case the nest. So this is a nest. So the front has these two what look like holes or openings on it. So that's the front. Every other side just has stripes. Now it's important that the front faces the flower. So we want to make sure the front with the two holes in it faces the flower. Because there's an interesting mechanic. Bees can fly into the hive or nest from any side, but they can only exit from the front. So we're going to use that to our advantage to make sure that the bees go exactly where we want them to. So we're going to make sure that the hive or the nest is facing the flower. Alright, so now that we have that, we're going to place an observer into that. So we want to observe that block, so we're going to put an observer into it. And then we also want to have a dispenser looking at that block. So in order to get a dispenser looking at that block, we have to actually drop in another block below the hive. Get rid of this block here, so we're able to put a dispenser on oriented in the right way. So for now I'm just going to get rid of this guy so we can see. So I have to be above what I want to dispense to. So if I click down now, we see that the dispenser hole is pointing in the direction that we want, which is going to be the beehive. If we did it in any other direction, like we clicked on the side of the block, we'd have it facing the wrong direction. Because the dispenser is always going to dispense facing you, whichever way you're oriented. So the only way to get that oriented properly is to do it with a block below it. So we have that block below it. Now we're going to put the nest back, or the hive. Shift click. Okay, front is facing the flower, so that's all good. Now we can get rid of this block if we want to. Alright, so now we look at putting some of this redstone in. So for the redstone, I guess I'll continue with dirt. So we need to get a redstone signal out of this observer and into this dispenser. Alright, sun's going down, so let me just fix that. Okay, so now we can still see. Okay, so we want this redstone to come out of here and go into this dispenser. So in order to do that, we have to put a block a block next to where this output is. And on that, we're going to put a redstone dust. Okay, now we need that redstone dust to get over here, so the way to get it over there is to make sure we have a block in this space here, so that we can put a piece of redstone dust there, and you can see that it's connecting. So that when this block changes or becomes full, it'll signal to this observer. This observer will spit out a signal to this redstone. This redstone will then travel down the side of that block, across that block, into this dispenser, dispensing a shear. So let's get ourselves a shear. So it's we don't need a flower anymore. So now we're going to put a shear in that dispenser. So the dispenser will dispense a shear against a full nest or hive, and that will produce a honeycomb. Now that honeycomb can pop out in any direction, which is not good, because we want a collection system to be able to collect it in a predictable way. So in this case, we are going to put blocks on the sides, and that's another reason to put it on the side, is to stop the bees from coming, from going in. So we're gonna put that there. We'll put the glass on top, and it can also spit out kind of weirdly on this diagonal. So we're also going to put a block over here and one over here. I've not yet seen it spit out on this here, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and put glass across the top there too. Alright, so now it looks like the honeycomb, when it gets sheared, can only really go in this block, maybe one over, one up. So it can kind of go in this little section here. So let's go ahead and put glass also around that. And we'll put glass up the front. Okay, so that's it. So now, when our beehive has a bee in it, he can only come out the front. So he'll come out the front in this direction. He'll be trapped here. He'll pollinate off of the flower, go back in, and keep doing that until the hive or the nest is full. When it's full, the observer will trigger the shears. The shears will cut off some honeycomb, and that honeycomb should fall on that block. Okay, so that's fantastic. We have to cap off the top here so that the bees don't fly out. So we can do that with really anything, but I prefer to use maybe a trapdoor. So I am going to put a trapdoor like so. So I have something like that. Okay, that's great. So now we get the honeycomb sitting on there, and we say, well, how are we going to collect that? Well, in this simple system, we're going to collect it by starting with a chest. So we start with our chest, and we're going to put that right underneath this. So right underneath it, so it's that block there. Okay, so there's our chest. And then we'll put a hopper, and get that done. Okay, and now we have to pull through a solid block. So in order to pull through a solid block, we have to use a hopper minecart. But hopper minecart can only be placed on a rail. So we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a rail. And we're going to put that on top of our hopper. Shift click. Get ourselves a hopper minecart. Place that on top of the rail. And now this hopper minecart should pull anything that falls on top of this grass block, namely the honeycomb, and put it into that chest. So that's it. That's our collection system. So that's really basically a single implementation of a pod. Okay, so it doesn't look too pretty. You can kind of use your imagination and pretty this up and place it however you wish. But this is actually effective. This will work. It won't work at the greatest of speeds, but it will be automatic and should continue to work for as long as you have shears in the dispenser. So, big question. How do you get bees into the beehive? Well, you could do it, I guess, a couple ways. If you have a beehive naturally spawning in your world, it could have up to 3 bees in it. If you wait until nighttime and you know that there's 3 bees in it, you could put a campfire underneath it and then use Silk Touch tool, go ahead and grab it and move it. And then you can move it right here in place and you'll have all 3 bees. If you have no bees to work with in the hive, you can move the hive over, But then you're going to have to find yourself some bees, namely 2, put a lead on them, and start breeding them up. And if you breed them up, so the interesting thing is, if you breed them up nearby, you need to give them an opening. So if we knock out a block, we give them an opening to this, they'll be able to fly in through this opening to the hive or the nest. But they won't be able to fly out this way. They can only fly out in the direction we want them. So we pretty much essentially trapped them. So let me see if that works. I'm going to spawn a bee. And let's say that's one that we bred. So he should eventually... Oh, now he's going to knock my minecart out? Are you serious? So he's trying to get to that flower is what he's doing. But at night, he's going to try to put himself into the hive. So let's see what happens when we set the time to nighttime. And let's see if he tries to find that hive and if he can get to it. Yeah, it looks like he's kind of stuck. So let me get rid of that. Okay, there he goes. See, he just went in. So it's nighttime. He went into the hive. That's it. He's stuck. When he comes out, he can only come out from the front of the hive, and he'll be in our enclosure, which is exactly where we want him to be. So if you breed up another one, he goes right in because it's nighttime. Breed up another one, he goes in because it's nighttime. So each one can hold 3. So now that has 3 in it. So let's go ahead and put that block back. And let's put our hopper minecart back since that bee so rudely knocked it out of place. Okay, so now we switch it back to day. So during the day they come out. So daytime they're all going to try to come out. Time set day. So daytime they're all going to come out. See, boom, they all came out the front. They immediately try to fly up and out, but they can't because we have it all blocked. So they'll eventually just start pollinating and gathering pollen off the flower. And once that's done, they'll eventually go back into the hive, and they'll keep doing that until the hive reaches, I guess, what they call a level of 5, which means it's completely saturated with pollen into honey, and it can be sheared. So they all went in, and they're all happy. So I'll sit here and wait, but you guys won't have to. I'll quickly jump to that when it's all done. And there we go. So it happened really quick. It took, I don't know, about 3 minutes for them to fully populate the nest and for it to saturate. But it went off. So it sheared it. The honeycomb came out. Honeycomb was immediately picked up by the hopper minecart, then sent into the hopper, and it should be sitting in our chest. So let's take a look. And there it is, 3 honeycomb. And I didn't have to do anything. So it was completely automatic from this point. So I'm not sure the exact timing, but it may be every 3 minutes or so. It'll fill up and create a honeycomb. So it could take a while to get the amount of honeycomb you want. It's definitely not the most efficient, but this is the simplest and probably cheapest automated honeycomb farm that I can come up with. So I think we should take this to the next level and see if we can create maybe a slightly different version that's a little more efficient. Of course, it's going to cost more resources, but in the long run, I think it'll be worth it. So let me go ahead and start on that project.